こからビハインドザシーンズをお送りします。クラブやバー、フェスなどのイベントに欠かせない存在の DJ、そんな DJ たちがどんなことを考えているのか、DJ がよく思う疑問やこれはありなしなどのトピックを僕 TJ がホストとなり、2組のゲストをお迎えして TJ がホストとなりゲストをお迎えしていろいろ語っていければと思います。そして今回は海外からお越しいただきましたヤングパンクスのお二人です。 We have a young punks. Hi.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Nice to be back again.
Thank you for having us.
How long you guys not meeting in each other?
Oh, man, this is like our reunion.
Yeah, this is the first time. Last night at 2 in the morning at Bar 1985 in Shibuya, we met for the first time in 11 years.
11 years.
I think.
11.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I've known how longer than most relationships that I've had in my life. So I think, you know.
Second wife.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
But anyway, welcome back to
Thank you,
Japan.
man. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm gonna ask some questions. So just please let me know how you feel, how you think. Okay. So the first one, how does it feel to be back in Japan after some time? Is there anything you especially looking forward to?
Sugoi. We, in our time, have played all around the world.
Yep.
In fact, almost everywhere we didn't play in the UK very much. We were always like traveling around the world to different places. And the Japanese audiences are the ones we've always enjoyed the best.
I think that's it, man. It's the commitment of people, whether they're watching a live show or they're there to party in a club. There's 100% commitment into that act. And I think that's the thing that it's very hard to match anywhere else in the world.
Japanese audiences seem to be quite unique in that it's like what you give them, they give back and they support you. So there's maybe the contrast would be a London audience. A London audience is like, okay, prove to me you're good. And you've got to kind of really earn it from them. But the Japanese audience are like, if you come and say, right, we're going to have a good time, right? Yes. And they're like, okay, then. And but you've got to lead. You've got to say, we're going to have a good time. Are you with me? And they say yes. And then that support, I think, is really great for an artist. It makes you feel like, okay, we can do this because you guys are with me.
Yeah.
Do you hear that from other DJs? Or is it just us?
Yeah. Always. Yeah. But you think the Japanese Japanese audience is more polite, kind?
I wouldn't say it's polite. They're just like, you know, if you meet them as an individual outside of the club, they're, you know, people are very respectful and courteous. You know, there's a kind of a dignity to how they present themselves. But in the club, that politeness turns into commitment. So they having a good time, you know?
Here's the unique thing I would say about Japan. The first time we played here, so we're here at the moment to play Nanomugen Festival, and that was also the first gig we played in Japan. So it's like going back to 2006 we came, and we've been booked because the guy who was running the show liked us, but the audience didn't know us. So there's like, I don't know how many people, more than 10,000 people, and none of them know who we are. And we walked on stage and I went like this, clapping, and 10,000 people all joined in. That wouldn't happen anywhere else in the world. But it was like, okay, these guys are on our side. They're not going, I haven't heard of this lot.
Wow.
They were, you know, sort of supporting us. And I think that's the foundation of the reason for live music, and I'm including DJing as live music, even though it's a different form of live music, which is unique over an algorithm in Spotify or an AI generated thing, is it's not about the act, it's about the act and the audience together. And when I think about the best gigs I've been to in the audience or the best gigs I've done as a performer, it's not really about the band. Often the band plays the same every night, it's the crowd that's good. So it's like an amazing night, it's never, oh, the band were great, it's always that audience was amazing.
Yeah, that's true, man. There's a relationship there. You know, I live in the Middle East now, and the relationship between artist and audience is two things. One, the artist is now staff.
Yeah,
so
hired
you're
to do a
hired
job.
to DJ, and you will damn well DJ. Or it's, I've heard about this artist, so I want to go and spectate. But their way of experiencing that is by filming it on their phone and then posting it to Instagram and walking away. I've experienced this. Japanese culture's like, we're part of that. It's like a symbiotic relationship. It won't work unless the artist performs and the audience interact.
I'm going to start interviewing you now. So we haven't been doing So, as you say, we met for the first time in 10 years.
Yeah.
The Young Punks has kept running for those 10 years, producing music, but we haven't been touring because we've all moved to different countries. We've been having families. Just life happens. And so we had a phase when we were touring a lot, and then we've had a phase where we've been keeping in touch on WhatsApp and making music, but we haven't been physically together. And I think clubbing might have changed a lot in that time because there's a lot of things from back then coming back now. And did you see the footage of Eric Prydz playing Call on Me for the first time in 20 years last week?
Yeah.
So on the one hand, it's like Eric Prydz, who rejected his big hit as not really representing him, never played it. And then now he's like, you know what? I'll play Call on Me. And it's a bit like that with us as well. It's like the show we're doing at the weekend, we're playing a lot of stuff from 20 years ago that we haven't played for a long time. It's like, you know what? We could do this again. But I noticed the crowd watching Call on Me. It's all the holding the phones up, filming thing. Is that a big thing in Japan?
No, I don't know, man.
Are the people still filming, or are they dancing?
No.
It's still, they love to, filming nowadays, I think. Yeah.
I watched the Boiler Room set with Yosuke. You know, the techno DJ who's got his top off all the time.
Yeah.
And it was, it was like
Yosuke.
Yes, and is that how you pronounce it?
Yosuke. Yukimatsu. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm like, we were watching it, and I was stunned because normal Boiler Room sets, there's like the pretty girl at the back.
Yeah.
Man, that crowd were they were just there. In fact, there was like a sort of 50-year-old lady right down like to the left of his side, and she was having a great time. She wasn't like stood there with her phone or trying to be cool or anything. I think that represents a great club culture to me.
Right, that's right. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So the next one, for someone discovering the Young Punks for the first time, which one track would you recommend that they listen to?
You said you had an answer and I had.
I had an answer. You got.
We'll give two answers.
Okay, sure.
The first thing is it's hard to find one track that really defines an act. There's some acts and they've got like one track which is like, oh, that's the famous one, and then the other tracks are like slightly less good versions of that famous track. We always try and do different things each time. So if you hear one track, it doesn't really show all the things we do. So in the light of that, I would say, let's go back right to the beginning of the story. The first track that was really big in Japan was Wake Up, Make Up, Bring It Up, Shake Up, which samples The Police, and it's kind of big beat, Fatboy Slim, and it's kind of drum and bass, but it's not really either of them. And the reason we have quite a good career in Japan is our Japanese manager heard that one song and just said, I'm signing that song, I'm releasing that song. And off the basis of that, that's what everything is built. Also, the other track to mention, though, is Dance With Someone Else, which was, again, these are the two first vinyls that we pressed together. And what I think is quite funny is I made this track, Dance With Someone Else, which was a Madonna sample of Tonight I Wanna Dance With Someone Else. And I sent it to Nathan, and he was the A&R man at Positiva Records at EMI.
Okay.
And what's happened is, rather than Nathan signing the Young Punks to EMI, Nathan left EMI and joined the Young Punks, and we set up our own label and released our own vinyl. And so it's like you meant to have the band join the label, but instead the label joined the band.
No, that's a good track to think about, actually, because the reason why I picked up on that record, so every day I'd get 50 CDs at a time coming through, and I just released the bootleg. It was Queen. It's Queen, Another One Bites the Dust, and Run DMC, Walk This Way, a pure mashup. And there's a lot of history in mashup culture. That's where Young Punks was born. The reason why this stood out is because I was specifically looking for tracks that had some kind of pop motif or a sample or bootleg, and I'm going through like tons and tons of track, and it's all the same, like funky house, carbon copy, trance, and then suddenly this little gem pops out, and it didn't say it was a bootleg, and it's like I instantly could hear like that Madonna sample, and that was it. I was like, I need to talk to you guys, can we meet up? Purely because of it represented what I think Young Punks is, which is always about just riffing on pop culture, mashing different styles up. And that's kind of where the relationship was born, really.
And it's interesting because a lot of like dance bootlegs, they take the most famous part of the track and loop it. But what we've often tried to do is find like a not famous part of the track and loop it. So our bootleg isn't get into the groove. It's just the end of the verse. Tonight I want to dance with someone else.
Yeah.
And also, so this was 2003.
Wow.
And when we did that house music was very like trying to be cool.
Yeah.
And the idea of sampling an 80s pop act was like really, what are they doing sampling Madonna? And then give it 2 years, it's call on me, and waiting for a star to fall. And it's like, it all came. And it was all because of us. No, not really. But, you know, it's good when you can feel a vibe shift sweeping through culture and be part of it as it happens.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Wow. So the next one. So you've been active for many years. Has your musical direction changed since the early days? If so, what influenced that change? If not, what has kept it consistent?
I think that when you look at a few of our tracks, you don't see any musical direction because we have had points where we've released a hip hop track and then released a drum and bass track and then released a house track, and they don't really sound like the same act. But when you've got a longer career, I think then it starts to make sense because what we always do is have something we like from dance culture, and we've not signed up to one team. We can any type of we could release a gabba track if we wanted, or a garage track, or it doesn't really matter. We just have to like it, and then we'll mix that with either some other form of music we like, jazz, rock, pop, or something from popular culture, a movie, an advert, the weather forecast in one case. And I think that formula can keep going over the decades. The music will always sound different, but the creative intention of bringing dance floor vibes with other things from culture together, that can stay the same.
I think that is the thing that's consistent. We were chatting last night talking about drum and bass, and Hal said, you know what, I love drum and bass, but when I write drum and bass, I don't want to fit squarely into the box of, you know, the chin strokers, the underground. It's like, so effectively I want to produce a dance track that's at 170 BPM that, you know, follows a drum and bass kind of pattern. And I think for me, something that is consistent in it's about having a good time. And that good time can come from good vibes from music, but sometimes it can also come from, you know, whether it's rock, hip hop, drum and bass, jazz, you're having a good time, you're enjoying it. But sometimes that good time comes from not taking yourself too seriously. And we've always like credit ourselves with it's tongue in cheek. Sometimes it is having a laugh for the sake of another sort of pop culture reference. No, everyone gets it because they like to take their music seriously. But whereas we're consistent in it's just have a good time.
But let's go back to Shakespeare. In Shakespeare, there's always in the king's court, there's the jester. And all the king's advisors are scared to tell the king what he should, because he'll get angry with them. But the jester will make jokes, and in the jokes he can put in the message that the king really needs to hear because it's phrased in a joke. So something that looks like it's just there to be silly can actually carry some kind of message. Now, what I'm not saying is we do a dance track about the environment and saving the world. But what I think I would say is, if you look at the world today, there's a lot of anger, a lot of violence, a lot of people, particularly social media, has divided everyone up into teams that hate each other. You just put on a good pop song, just a happy song, and everyone will go, you know, oh, I feel better now. It's like, it can be a stupid, nothing song. It's not clever, it's not artistically valid. I mean, I'm not saying don't make anything artistically valid, but just to make people feel good for 3 minutes can change the world. Because if everyone's feeling better, they stop fighting with each other and stop arguing about everything.
Except me and you.
Apart from us.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, so the next one. So you run a unique service called Replay Heaven that recreates samples.
Yep.
How did this project come about?
It actually evolved out of us working together.
Okay.
So one of the first Young Punx tracks, actually the first track we got signed, we'd remixed there was a TV advert in the UK that was using the Rocky theme tune, ba 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 ba, and it was really cheesy. It was like very, very silly advert. And so this was like an ultimate Young Punx. It's like a total joke advert. And it's like, we just made a mashup of it, and I sent it to Judge Jules. And just as like, I didn't even say it was the Young Punx. He knew it was us. But then he played it on Radio 1 and said, new one from the Young Punx. And it was like, oh. And then we had A&R men calling up. So we ended up, it was like a joke track that I just sent to him. And then it actually got assigned to EMI. But what I found was let's have a bit of music business. When you've got a recording, there are two legal parts of it.
Yeah.
One is the publishing or the songwriting, who wrote the music. The other side is the master, who's playing it, who owns the recording. So if the Beatles are doing a Beatles song, the publishing is owned by the same person as the master. But if then Kylie Minogue does a cover of a Beatles song, Kylie Minogue owns her master and the Beatles own the writing. So these are two different copyrights. Now, dance music and hip hop has always been going and sampling. So they bring in someone else's songwriting, but then they also have to go and get permission to bring in the master side of it to own the recording. So we had to either get the legal permission to use the Rocky soundtrack,
which would have been
expensive, complicated. They would have wanted half the money on the record, or well, we can just record the same thing again ourselves. Now I've got between us, Nathan's misspent youth is DJing vinyl in drum and bass clubs. Mine is like playing music in school bands and so on. That's the two sides coming in. So I was like, well, let's record it. You know, it's an orchestra, right? Yeah. I'll get all the musicians together. So basically, we remade this whole disco orchestra thing from the Rocky soundtrack, and then we owned the full recording.
You sampled yourself, basically.
So then when we'd done that, I was like, other people must need this. And so I just set up a business saying, if you've got a track that's got a sample in, we will re-record the sample for you and make it sound exactly the same, and then sell it to you, and then you will own the full. I will charge this much, and the original artist would have charged that much. It's better to use me, but it sounds the same.
It's entirely true that other people needed it, because after doing that, we were working on a record by an act called Love Freaks called Shine. And I think maybe Hal had done 1 or 2 commissions, including the Rocky theme tune. It was like, so my boss at the time, he's like, "Oh, we've got to clear this." I can't remember what the sample was.
It's Shine by Electric Light Orchestra.
Yeah, ELO. And it was like, oh, actually, this guy that I'm working with does replays. So we gave it to Hal, and I think it was like, it kind of like, what's the word in tech that they use? It was proved that there was a market there, you know? And then I think it went on from that.
And then, like, I started working with Steve Angelo, and then he put me in touch with Eric Prydz, and then we made Call on Me. So I made Call on Me together with Eric Prydz. And this is all like the story up to 2004. Now that's 20 years of doing this, and basically every record, there's so many dance records that I'm now on. I've now got 26 billion streams on Spotify of tracks that I've worked on. And I don't take any creative credit for it. I'm just doing my job. Like the artist has the idea for the track. I'm just copying something. I'm just doing my job. But it is great that now you can get Chemical Brothers, Nas, Kanye West, Ed Sheeran, Katy Perry, whatever you can go to drum and bass, dance, hip hop. This week I'm working on the new Chemical Brothers album and Ty Dolla $ign and ASAP Ferg. It is all, it's like, just this stuff comes in, and it's great to be able to when you're a musician, there's two things you can think about. I'm an artist creating, or you can think, well, but I need to make a living. And I think what I've been very lucky with is by doing this form of making a living, I've been able to work with many, many great artists in a small way behind the scenes, which has been better than serving pizzas or something.
Yeah.
How was it working with Eric Prydz and Call Me? Did you help for him to the play sample?
Yes. So we had to. So I'd just done some work with Steve Angelo. We made a track together, and I did some replays for him, and he put me in touch with Eric Prydz. So obviously, Call on Me is made out of a sample of Steve Winwood, Valerie. So my job was to remake Valerie, like find all the 80s synths, get all the patches the same and everything. But Steve Winwood was actually involved in the process. Usually, if you hear us on the work we're doing where there's a singer, we're finding someone who sounds like the original singer.
Okay. Steve
Winwood actually sang a new version at home and sent it through to me. But it actually took me longer to make Steve Winwood in 2004 sound like Steve Winwood in 1986 or whatever than it took me to record everything else, because he'd been touring it for years. And for example, I think on the record it goes, I'm the same boy I used to be, and then touring it he'd been going, I'm the same boy I used to be, or just something slightly different. It's like, this isn't the same. And this was before, you have Melodyne and all these programs for moving vocals around. Didn't have any of that. I had to put it into like an Akai sampler and pitch bend Steve Winwood's voice into the tune that he did the first time.
And we had exactly the same problem when Deep Dish did Dreams with Stevie Nicks.
Yeah.
And like they'd sampled like this track. It was Fleetwood Mac, wasn't it? Yeah. And they'd sampled it exactly the same things. Like Stevie wanted to get involved, and she's now like a 58-year-old woman or something at the time, and she just sounds like a 58-year-old woman. So it just had no energy at all. And I think we ended up getting that re-vocaled potentially. Anyway, I shouldn't say that. I'm not sure. Maybe.
But we love Stevie Nicks. I do love Stevie Nicks.
What a legend episode, huh? So the next one. Genres like electro drum and bass and the UK garage are seeing a revival among the younger audience like now. So how do you view this movement in the scene?
Man, it's a positive thing. It's a really good thing. It's always nice when something as innovative as jungle or drum and bass, which has never really gone away. It's just kind of gone through waves of popularity as different DJs have tried different styles. But the sort of bigger answer in terms of it's a positive thing comes down to the fact that, this is... In the UK, you've got like grime, which effectively is derivative of hip hop or rap. Jungle and drum and bass is entirely a UK export. It started in the UK and now it's grown to be this kind of worldwide movement. And so to see that now being picked up by a younger generation, for example, my son, who is 14, now outperforms me as a DJ. We'll do like back to back, and he'll be like, Dad, can I play you this track? And it's an absolute monster of a record. And then I'm like, but then I can go back to him and be like, have you heard this? And it'll be something from 1996. So man, I think that resurgence it's really interesting. Certainly with like UK garage. For me, that wave of electronic music is probably one of the most interesting musically. It's probably more aligned with rock in terms of its culture and its attitude. Punk, it's more aligned with jazz in terms of its ability to freeform.
It's not a corporate music,
It's not constrained. And dude, listen, living in the Middle East and seeing like, I suppose, dance music almost throttled into melodic techno. It's everywhere. It's so generic, and there's it's got limited parameters for how exciting it can be. Drum and bass is the antidote to that. Garage is the antidote to that. It's exciting.
I think what's really interesting is dance music, because since we last came here, we've had like the pandemic and lockdown and nobody going clubbing. And there's a thing happened in dance music where nobody could go out and have a shared experience. So it became a playlist at home. But once it was controlled by the algorithm and playlists, I think sort of sameness and not spoiling anyone's time, it had to become very safe to succeed. And particularly at that time, we had that sort of tropical house kind of vibe, and also the return to the M1 organ bass, Show Me Love kind of sound. And there's just so many acts, and they were getting signed in and then polished up by about 5 ghost producers who would then polish them, and then about 2 mix engineers. All the tracks ended up sounding exactly the same. You can't really tell one artist from the other. I want to take an R&B a cappella, M1 organ bass, 909, and the person whose name on the record just had the idea. It's all basically made by Bill and Ted or whatever doing it. And then I think that the same way that in the 70s you had punk as a rebellion to disco, and both disco and prog rock getting just too produced, to have something underproduced was refreshing. What I really like is that it's very easy to underestimate how good kids' music sense is. I hear a lot of kids who are 5, 6, 7, and they're listening to like Russian and Brazilian funk music, and it's like as challenging and aggressive as like the first Prodigy or something. It's distorted, it's clearly homemade, it's super aggressive, super energetic, and it sounds badly produced, but that's because kids can tell authenticity. They can tell that the one that's been through all the A&R men and all the nice ghost producers and all the nice mastering engineers is just boring. And then there's something being made by a Russian teenager in their bedroom that's like streaming billions, and the adults don't even know the genre exists.
And I think that's reflected in, you can go to like a Tale of Us gig, for example. And I've been to a couple, and I'm not to say it doesn't have its merit, but
You're
it's
just dissing everyone in
no, I'm not. No, I'm not dissing them because, like, I had a good experience, but that experience was largely around a visual, like, quite a long build to a drop, and it was kind of visually impressive, but it was quite flat as an experience. And I think the reason why I find it really exciting that kids are discovering, I suppose, the street music again is because of that energy. You go to a club where, you know, I went to a club and Goldie was playing, and the amount of energy in that room, pure excitement, no phones, no backdrops, no visuals. It was incomparable, and that's why I think it's exciting that people are rediscovering this kind of music again.
Last time I was near Goldie, I dropped a pint on him by accident. Slipped out of my hand, exploded, landed on Goldie. It's like, but here we go.
Wow, thank you. So the next one. So what do you value the most or pay special attention to in your live band sets and DJ sets, respectively?
We need to come up with a good answer to this because we had a chat beforehand about this question. Then we realised our answer was choose good music. And it's like, no, that's not an answer. So you're saying comparing the difference between a club experience and a live experience.
Yeah.
So the challenge... Okay, there's some artists and they just make club music, and therefore you can go out and DJ, and then if you go and see them at Coachella, it's basically the same thing. But if you're kind of, I guess, like, you know, Chemical Brothers or Basement Jaxx, where, okay, it's DJ music, but it's also a band,
Right.
It becomes a challenge because the club experience is different from the live show experience. But how do you find a way to do both? In fact, I think as we're sitting here, the day after tomorrow, we've got Chemical Brothers DJ set playing on the other side of town.
Yeah.
So obviously there's a weighting where on the club side, there is more freedom to play other people's tracks. In fact, you can turn up and not play one of your tracks all night. Whereas in the live show, it's more like come and hear what we've made. And I think in the DJ environment, it's more about there's a flow through the evening. You have to make your show flow, and you have to make the flow from the DJ before you and the DJ after you be respectful, so the whole night works, which is a different thing from, I think a live show is like, look, this is us, this is what we do, we're going to show you what you do, show us our thing, take it or leave it. It's quite hard, and we've struggled with it, to make a brand that can cover both. There's definitely been a point where we were making an album. I think the album was probably Mash Pop and Punk Step, and so the whole point of the album is clashing heavy metal, Brazilian, drum and bass, all these different things. Then we got offered like residencies at Eden in Ibiza, and it's like you've got to play funky house for 2 hours, and it's like, well, I'm not going to say no to the booking, but how do we make it the same act? And that is a challenge.
But that's with what Hal's saying there, and thinking back to your question about what's important, I think with hindsight, you know, when you were in your like 20s and 30s and you're trying to make a career, one of the things that we did was obviously we had to try and mold to a certain archetype in certain scenarios. So it'd be like, okay, we're playing Pasha in Ibiza. We better take the one funky house track that we've played and then play all of the same, because we you know, you're desperate to fit in, you want to succeed. And I think the thing that's important for both of us now is to be true to ourselves and represent what we do. And I remember that one of the first gigs we played, it was in Jersey, the Channel Islands, and the crowd were there, and the we started, and the half the crowd left.
Yeah.
And the promoter stood next to me, and I'm embarrassed because he's like, one of my first big gigs as the Young Punx. And I said to him, dude, like, they're leaving. And I remember his advice to this day. And he was like, good. They're the people we want to leave.
Oh, yeah.
I need if the people who stay, I want here, because I'm trying to build a party. I'm trying to build a brand and an experience. So I'd rather all of those people leave, and I'd rather the people that stayed, they found other friends who were like them and bought them next time.
Please book the Young Punx. We'll drive half of the crowd out, but you didn't like those guys.
But it resonated, and that would be what's important to me now. It's be true to yourself.
And also, you know, we're ironically called the Young Punx. which because it was which was a name that came because I saw it. It was graffiti in Venice, written on a wall, and I saw the Young Punks. That that'd be a good band name.
Okay.
And because it was also the same time as like there was Daft Punk, it's all Young Punks, and also Basement Jaxx had the X thing. You know, it's like okay, that's fine. But when you chose a name, I was just trying to send some tracks to Judge Jules and Annie Nightingale. I had no idea we'd still be using it this much later. It's like okay, we're now not young, but I think when you are young, you could be quite scared of being older, thinking that it's like worse in some way. Oh no, you can only like do what you're doing when you're young. But actually, as you do get older, you're still the same person you were when you were younger, but you've learned a few lessons along the way. And I think, particularly now that we're in this world of like Instagram DJs, where like everyone can like, oh, here I'm on my decks at home playing this. Check out this mashup that I've spent ages preparing that'll look like I just made. You know, all that kind of stuff. To just do your own thing and be you is more valid than ever, because there's so many people doing the same thing that what people want is to see something that they haven't seen before. So just being you, just be true to your camera one, camera two. Just be true to yourself.
Yeah, honor yourself.
Good idea. Good advice. Thank you. Okay, so the next one. So you worked on many hit songs as a songwriter and producer. So can you tell us about a particularly memorable production experience?
No. I genuinely forget everything as soon as I've done it. I'm working on so many tracks. I can't remember what I'm doing. You know what? I was going to talk about Call on Me, and then I've already done that. Do we need to have the question, or should I just say we've already spoken about Call on Me? I don't know.
Okay.
Do I have any
Memorable track?
Have I told you a story that's memorable?
Oh man, there's too many. I don't know. Maybe working with what's her name, the Peaches lady, Amanda Palmer. But you can't talk about memorable stories because they're ones that get you cancelled.
You know what? I'm actually going to flip this back on you. I'm on like over 2,000 tracks, and it's just a job. The A&R man has my email address, or the artists in some cases. Like email me and say, either I need this thing copied exactly the same, or with some of the artists who I work more closely with, like Duke Dumont and Chemical Brothers, it will be more like, okay, I want a vibe like this record, but I want a new thing. So it's that a classic, Chemical Brothers thing would be, so I found this vinyl of a choir in the 50s. I want it to sound like I found a vinyl of the choir in the 50s, but I've written a song, put it together. Or, Duke Dumont will be, okay, I want this to sound like I found an old Loletta Holloway a cappella that no one else has, but actually we've written the song.
Are you saying you're to blame for the whole chicane Calvin Harris debacle?
What's that?
Well, this is, the famous Chicane record, and it's got like a piano riff in it. Let's say it's just 4 notes, but it's got a certain vibe and colour and rhythm to it. And the argument raging now is that Calvin's basically taken that riff and moved it along 2 bars. So essentially the way it's played it is different, but it still retains all the colour and the rhythm and the sequence.
I don't know, but I can tell you that there's a Calvin Harris album that starts with a piano solo intro that's exactly the same as a piano solo that I gave to Duke Dumont at the same time he was managed by the same management as Calvin Harris.
I see.
But
so he's familiar with it then?
I don't know. I don't know how these things happen. There's also, the track. Do you know our track Harlem Breakdown?
Oh yeah.
So this started. The way that track started, and for people who haven't heard it, it's like a big Brecker Brothers funk. But the way it started is often, it's like if the drums work, then you can layer everything on top of it. So it's me and the drummer in the room together, and we were going. I said like, got this, and you can hear me do that, and then he picks it up on the hi-hats going. And then I walk over to the guitar and I start going gink 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 gink, and so the mic's on the drums and I'm over there, and then I walk over to the congas and I play the congas it's all like bleeding in the mic, and I sort of go like that, and that's how Harlem Breakdown starts. Now, if you also go and listen to "Can't Beat the Feeling" by Justin Timberlake. Off the Trolls soundtrack, massive track around the world, you'll find it starts exactly the same as that. And so but I had to check, and it's like even got the guitar out of tune and so on, but they've replayed it. So I'm like, because my entire life is spent like recording copying other people's things
yeah.
to go into tracks. And then there's like this absolutely massive Justin Timberlake track, which starts with the same drums and vibe of a Young Punx track, but they've replayed it, and there's no musical composition because it's just
the karma of 2,000 recording artists who are all having the same experience. Yeah.
So I'm absolutely fine with it, but when I heard it, it's like, hang on, I know that.
Thank you. Okay, so do you have any bitter but unforgettable experience from the stage or on tour?
So we were discussing this one. Are you
Yeah.
going to talk about it? Am I going to talk about it?
Wow, what this? No, man, come on, you're the storyteller. This is what the Kyoto gig.
Yeah.
That was so we started off. We had this was the last time we came to Japan. We started off in Osaka and we played a club there. I don't know if it's still there or not. Onzième.
Ah, yeah.
And
they closed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure, man. But at the time, it was like our favorite club. And then on the way from Onzième, we were going from Onzième up to play Nanomugen in 2014. And during this kind of experience at Onzième, we had there was 3 or 4 guys that really liked what we did. And they were like, "What are you doing now?" Told them. And they said, "We'll book you a gig in Kyoto. You must come to Kyoto, and there's this promoter there, and he runs this great night, and you need to come there." And so we suddenly all jump on a train.
But I called up the guys that had paid for our flight and hotel and everything and said, "Can we play another gig while we're in the country? We're here. We'd like to play." And they were like, "Well, I guess you can do it, but they're not allowed to promote it because we've paid for you to come."
Yeah, that was often the case as well, wasn't it?
And so and it was a Sunday night in Kyoto,
Raining,
and and nobody knew we were there because we were told you can't tell anyone you're playing. So because we had an evening free, it's like, well, okay, let's play.
Yeah.
And so, I think 10 people came, and they were 10 people who'd seen us the night before in Osaka, and we told them in person we were doing the gig, and they we'll come and see you tomorrow as well.
Yeah.
And so we had this club with 10 people in,
Yeah.
and it was, I would say, one of the best gigs of my life.
Really?
Because they were all fans already, and the fact that no, nothing matters, who cares? We were so relaxed about it that we started really messing about in ways we wouldn't do if there was a pressure on it.
It was
So-
like we had everyone around
We got people on
Around the
the
stage,
We
like-
were talking, not on this can I have a request? We were like, what should we do next? It's like they were guiding us, and there was a drum kit in the corner of the room, and I started building the drum kit, and I started playing drums in the DJ set,
yeah.
and there was like weird mixes that we would do
Yeah.
that were either super fast or really drawn out. And after that, we were like, why don't we do that in all the gigs?
Yeah.
And the answer is you're normally trying to do what you think you should do, and then when there's just there's 10 people and they all like us anyway, it's so this was it was about to be the worst gig, and now I think if I had to take one gig away in my life, I really like that one with the 10 people in Kyoto on the rainy Sunday night.
Well, the worst one's probably you falling off the stage and breaking your wrist, though.
Oh, that's that still hurts. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Also, people had put their glasses on the front of the stage, and then I walked across it, and so the stage was broken glass, and I'd been down like this, and the people in the audience were pointing at me, and I was like, what? And I had blood all over me. You know when you get a cut and you don't feel it straight away, you feel it if you have a cut and you get in the bath and go, oh, what's that? I was like, I'm just absolutely covered in blood and fell off the stage, and it's that point it was this is really working for a living, isn't it?
Okay. So what is your ultimate goal in your musical career?
I don't know, man. Do you know what? For me, my ultimate goal emerged in my vision when I was 9. And then later 13. When I was 9, I used to listen avidly to Guns N' Roses. And all I ever thought about wasn't necessarily being on stage, was just being part of that machine. And then when I was 14, it was there was a DJ or a producer called Zinc, and he produced a track, Sharpshooter. And I remember thinking, oh my God, it'd be amazing to play with Zinc. And look, 2 things have happened. I've had a career in music behind the scenes. I've had a career in music on the stage. And our last gig that we played together before our break was with Zinc. And you know what? I've met the dream that I had when I was a kid. So it doesn't get better than that. Today is the best it can be.
Can I tell him the other bit about the Zinc gig?
You can.
Yeah. So it's like in the movie of Nathan's life. When it gets to the final scene, it's like, and what they do is they write it so in the first scene he's in his bedroom playing Super Shot, Super Shot. And then they go through his career, and then in the final triumphant scene, it's like he's there on stage with Zinc, and then we come to start our set, and it's like press play, and it's like nothing comes out. It's like, sorry, can you just play another track? And then we're like, okay, levels. Is it the headphones? No. Okay. What's the monitor? Okay, can you play another track, please? And then we're like, is it coming out of album? Now we're getting really stressed, and there's the crowd there, and it's like Zinc still. It's like, I can't make it. Nathan's not making any noise. I don't know why it won't make any noise. Zinc's there, and I don't know how to DJ anymore. Anyway, we had Zinc play like 4 more tracks until eventually we turned the filter. The last DJ had ended his set by filtering up until there was nothing, and we've been playing with the volumes and never touched the filter. It's like, okay, we can start now, please, Mr. Zinc.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's funny. Like it sounds so silly at the time, but it mattered. I remember that stress. It was pure stress. I think it was quite a stressful experience. That whole gig was quite stressful because we'd driven across the country to get there. Yeah. This was in Austria or somewhere. But man, like I know it sounds a little bit glib, my answer, but yeah, I've done stuff that I've really enjoyed. And I'm happy with what we've achieved. I guess the dream now would be actually we're doing this kind of tour at Nanamugan this weekend. It would be, now feels like a good time to maybe do this again in some places. So what the new dream would be, right now we feel quite relevant, and maybe it is. So maybe we just put some music out again, try and do some more shows because it's a lot of fun.
You saying it like there's like a goal that you're aiming towards.
Yeah.
But I think that we've passed that point, and it's quite when you're trying. A lot of artists, I think, will have this feeling when you're trying to achieve something. Everyone always says to you stuff like, "Oh, it must be great that you get paid to do the thing that you love," and it's like, I'm actually really stressed because I've got this thing I want to do, and it's like, oh, my music doesn't sound as good as I want it to, and I've not got that booking I want to, and it's like a pain of knowing I want this thing, and I haven't got it yet, and often people forget how lucky they are. So like playing a great gig with a great crowd, some people care about what they're doing, but all they're thinking about is the pain of it not being as good as you want it to be, and it's why a lot of musicians aren't really that happy. And I think we've gone through that now to a point where we just don't care. It's like it's just a privilege to sometimes have someone enjoy what you do, and it's not just about us. As I said, the good gigs, it's always about the crowd. And we value, the show. So unfortunately, when this goes out on air, this gig will have already happened, but we're playing, it's 18,000 people. It's like astonishing. Wow. But then last night we were out in a club in Shibuya, and there were a load of teenagers playing on some decks. There were like 20 people in the club, and the music going out into the street.
And they're having a great time.
And that's as important to me, that it's real and people are there because it's organic, rather than it being, oh, I got a record deal. We got, we've made a video. It's got a plugger. I'm so bored of all of that. I just want to make stuff,
That's funny, man. It's like, you can go out and just play records and have a great time. I think I get more nervous about if we're having like a party at home or something like that, just getting like my wife turn around to me and go, nice track.
Bass face from wife. Success.
The most crippling thing is when she goes, what's this? and then I'm just broken inside, So that would be my new aspiration: a full set list that my wife approves of.
I tell you, the other thing that was happening in this club last night, which we've never seen before, and that's why it's good to just get out there in different places and see what's happening. They had all different DJs getting up. It's almost like everyone in the club had a go, and sometimes it was rock, sometimes it was garage, sometimes it was hard techno, and there was a girl, and she was DJing off some iPhone DJ software, but I don't think even a good one. Just something where you could play tracks off the iPhone. And she was playing what I think was I think because it was hard to tell. I think was 70s glam rock, or a bit like Adam and the Ants. It was sort of a thing. And she was overdriving it into the mixer so that it was really distorted.
Really grungy,
and I did not know if that was a creative decision or if she just didn't know how to gain stage the mixer. And she was using the inbuilt effects on the DJ thing. And there's this wall of noise going...
Yeah.
And it was like, this is amazing. And it would sound terrible if you had it on Spotify. Or try, you meet the guy the next day, he's like, listen to this track I heard last night. But in that place, at that time, she was doing something that we'd never heard. It sounded more experimental than like any boiler room set or anything, you know.
She would have. I was chatting this morning, and I was like, she had to be for real because you can hear it. She's right next to the monitor. You can hear it. It's massively distorted and crunching and grungy.
And she's going, that's fine.
And she's like, this is exactly what I intended it to be. I love that, man. I love that for her.
Okay, thank you. So the one last question. So could you secretly recommend the spot in London that music lovers should visit? But you live in Finland, and in Germany.
No, man, I live in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates.
Simon, our drummer, is in.
Yeah.
So we I don't think we know anywhere in London anymore. Do you know any secret things?
Not secret. I mean, again, it closed down. It's reopened. There used to be a really good venue in London called Printworks. And production-wise, it was just a really good. Good lighting, amazing sound system. The lineup's always really good. But this was 8 years ago when I went there, so I think they've
many
reopened.
Places have closed down though. You used to go like Turnmills, and we started off DJing at Bar Vinyl with Vinyl Addiction Records up in Camden. That and it's like they've all gone now. It's a real crisis for live music that it's hard to make venues both economically work out and not have noise pollution problems and so on. I'm sure there is some cool little place in London. We're actually the wrong people to ask because we don't live there.
Yeah, I could tell you about good spots in Dubai. Like, there's a lot of beach clubs. There's a lot of big festivals that we'd be booking. Like, Calvin's come over because they got Ushuaia there, for example. There's like there's Soho Gardens where I went to see Eats Everything play there. And they're all fairly kind of tried and tested. But underneath that, there's quite a big underground scene. And it's very heavily curated. They've learned from what's going on in like Europe and America. And they've tried to export that and, curate a night that represents that, but they're very passionate. So there's like Analog Room, which is like very heavy techno. There's Bassworks, which is drum and bass. And when you contrast that with what's going on in the super clubs and the super beach clubs that are there, these events are taking place in back rooms of hotels where in the day it's where you go and get your breakfast buffet. And people have had the passion to build their own sound systems and then install them across the course of one day just to hold a party. And there'll be 300 people there. But it's a vibe.
Wow.
It's a vibe. And you have to work hard to scratch the surface beyond your super clubs and find that kind of thing in the Middle East. So yeah, man, anyone who's coming to Dubai in the next year, hit me up because I know some good places.
Sure.